The Pod Barber. Coming up on today's show.
I would never identify myself as a tough guy out of rugby. You know, I kind of just did what I had to do on the pitch. But I suppose I always had a bit of a barrier. Like I said, didn't let people in. I always try to kind of say, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'll keep playing.
Yeah.
Pretty much the day I left hospital, as we kind of left hospital, just getting onto the M11, that was it. Realisation hit. Everything hit. I couldn't keep anything bottled up. And I just broke down in tears. Floods of tears. And that's never happened to me before. Never. That would have been the first inkling that something wasn't right. And it wasn't just tears of pain, the fact I couldn't play anymore. It was a tears of, I can't get rid of this anger. I can't get rid of this stress. I've got no outlet for any of this.
You're listening to The Pod Barber. I'm championing the chat, proving conversation is the cure to better mental health and well-being. Meet my guests from all walks of life, showing vulnerability and sharing wisdom. Sit in on my chats and be part of reality entertainment. Join the Pod Barber tribe. Subscribe, share and like people. Feel the sonic positivity we're pumping right at you. You, my friends, are not alone. Who's next, please? Well, I'll tell you who. We welcome Adam KitKat Miles to the show today. Adam works within the airline and aviation industry, a strong, experienced technical engineer keeping those metal birds safe in the sky. An astute, analytical team player, he also chalked up 300 first-team appearances for Saffron Walden Rugby Club, eventually having to retire to a severe injury. Rugby is a fantastic sport played by hard men, but the knocks can be harder. Those impacts, life's impacts, they can take their toll. Now only too happy to speak about his journey of depression, anger, eventual acceptance as he's transitioned that phase of play in his life, guided by therapy and support, rediscovering the joy. Welcome to the show, my man.
Oh, hi, mate. That was awesome. Love that little intro. That's good.
It's the only bit I really concentrate on, mate. Apart from this bit, the noodle, which I know you've
been talking about for long enough.
Well, yeah, I wrote yours ages ago. So here goes, pal. Have a break. Have a Kit Kat. Whack, crack, snap. Oh man, not like that. I'm sorry, Adam. You've broken your back. Yeah, but I play rugby. I'm the captain. When will I be back? Right now, Adam. We can't be sure of that. This is serious. We have to wait and see. Sport's my life. What's happened to me? I'm going to get through this. I've got hope and I'm strong. Adam, you're rapidly recovering. You're proving us all wrong. That's great, doctor. But something else feels broken. These feelings deep inside me seem to have woken. You know, I'm not sure. I know there's something not right. I never thought mental health would be such a hard fight.
Mate, speechless about that. That's top quality. If I could get up and give you a hug, I would.
Give me a high five.
Yes, mate.
Woo!
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, you played a hard sport.
That's true.
Typified, hard man. Cracks appear in life. You find yourself looking at a recovery in the sense of physical, but you realise that both mind and physical are entwined, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. You know, kind of physical injuries are the easiest thing to repair, you know, because you can see them, you can go to the doctors, you go to get fixed, you know, you go see sports therapists and, you know, they'll stick a bunch of needles in you, make sure you get up and start walking again and start playing and then you're back into it. But, you know, it's the injuries which you don't see, which are the biggest ones. And I didn't really see it coming. And it did hit me hard as well. Hit me really hard.
Well, we're going to get into that a little bit later on, son. But just right now, I always like to ask, how are you coping?
Yeah, good, man. I'm really good at the minute. Yeah, got my headspace right. Better than really good, I'd say, you know, kind of expecting my first child next year. So yeah, 28th of Feb, big day for me and my wife. But yeah, that's just made me over the moon. It's what I wanted for so long. So yeah, that's just kind of sharpened up my mind, sharpened up my goals and what I want for the next 5-10 years of my working career. And
giving you like that sort of parameter to work in, to know that you're doing that with someone you love.
Yeah.
And you're in the happy space that you said, you can't really ask for more than that, can you?
No, not at all. And like my parents used to say it to me, you know, kind of, you'll know when you have your own kid, you'll know when your wife's pregnant and you'll have those feelings. And I kind of thought, no, you know, I'll be all right. I'll still be the same guy. But second I found out Sarah was pregnant, that was it. I haven't been able to stop smiling, haven't been able to stop kind of with a bit of a bounce, you know, skipping my step, and sharpens up the mind, sharpens up your focus, and yeah, you're just getting on it.
Yeah, man. You need a sharp mind and focus. Tell us a bit about what you do.
I'm Deputy Continuing Airworthiness Manager for like the second largest business aviation company in the world. We manage the maintenance on these private jets. So it's like an MOT. Like every aircraft has like an MOT every year. It's like one big check. But aircraft has so many different components. There's not just one big check. There's loads of other smaller checks, and you've always got to stay on top of it because you can't go past a certain lifespan of those components without being checked or being replaced. It's high stress, and it's always evolving as well. So always new technologies coming out, always new types of aircraft, new aviation rules, stuff like we have something called service bulletins, which is, where the manufacturers tell us what to look at. There might be a problem, or you have something called Airworthiness Directives, and they are something serious, which the governing body, like the UKCA or EASA, they will say you have to look at these components inside the next 3 flying hours or next month because we've found something quite serious. So stuff like that comes out, and it might come out on Christmas Eve. Quite a few Airworthiness Directives come out on Christmas Eve, and that's it. Your Christmas is trying to sort that sort of stuff out and trying to, with quite a mobile fleet and aircraft going to different locations. There's not always a maintenance facility in those different locations. So you've got to try and organise maintenance crews to fly out on Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and some facilities shut down.
Man, you've got to support Santa at that time of year if the sleigh is not ready to fly.
Yeah, of course, man, definitely. Kids
it's not just magic dust, it's people like Adam keeping him up in the skies, delivering all your presents to you. I think the aviation industry in general, this past year or so, has just been grounded. However, we're in a communication here, but global travel helps to communicate further, and we kind of need those birds in the sky. We need that innovation. We need those things. How's it bouncing back? How's it coming together? I know you're in private jets, but are the rich dudes still flying around? Are they still partying on Ibiza and all sorts?
Yeah, they were still trying to fly around quite a lot, even during the lockdown.
Airspace.
Yeah.
Lockdown up there.
No, exactly. But there was still quite a few flights when they're flying into, like, going from different country. They were told when the second they enter another airspace, they were told to turn back round, head back to where you came from. You don't have the right passports, the right visas. You're not allowed here. So the fleet which we manage, I've never seen so many aircraft on the ground. Lack of flights, and that has a huge impact on, like, my job, because obviously when the aircraft's not flying, we're not really making any money. So that also leads into the guys who deal with the operations of the aircraft, like the ops aircraft or the flight planning. And then it's all the flight crews, so it's the pilots, the ISPs, like air hostess and stuff like that. So it's impacted them. All our accounts departments, all our ground crew, like FBOs where the aircraft fly into, where the passengers board the aircraft and come off. It's all of those guys which are affected. And so it's had a huge knock-on effect, but the bounce back has been, like, in business aviation, the bounce back's always going to be a little bit quicker. But I have never seen it so many aircraft on the ground last year I've never seen it so busy this year. We always know that summer's always a bit of a silly season for aviation, but it's gone above and beyond. Every day we're seeing all our aircraft flying. Aircraft, when they go tech, when they break, we need the engineers on point. We need them to get them there, get the aircraft back flying. So we've got more charters, and the rich dudes, they want to fly. They want to go see their businesses which they've invested in. They want to go on holiday. They want to go to their second, their third home. Painful enough for me to say that, second and third home.
Yeah,
but
sounds painful to me, actually.
Yeah, but they want to go. And
what's the point of being in a position where you can sort of enjoy the spoils? Obviously, hopefully these people are putting some good back out there, but naturally, by those people being there, they're keeping, like you said, a ripple of jobs. Loads of people feed off the back of that as well. So it's good to see these things getting back. And currently planes, until someone can sort out time travel, are probably the best way of getting about.
Next year, I'm predicting that the cost of flights will come down. More people will fly next year. It's going to be even busier for commercial airlines next year, like even busier.
We can get back out in the world. So I want to take you on a little bit of a journey back to when you were at school. Tell me about you as a young Adam.
I hated school. Couldn't stand it. Wanted to get out as quick as possible. It was really quite painful for me, having red hair, being ginger.
Strawberry blonde.
Yeah, strawberry blonde, yeah. Ibiza Sunset, I think, would be the best one. 2 different coloured eyes as well. Skinny, lacking in confidence. Other kids saw me as an easy target. So, yeah, I was bullied from an early age. Also kind of had something called glue ear. So I was partially deaf in my really younger years, so in primary school. So I was always a couple of years behind until my parents found out, and I was in like year 4. So I was always a little bit behind there. So it was more of a lot of emotional bullying in school, kind of lots of teasing, lots of picking on me. It doesn't sound too bad when it's kind of like, do you want to say it like that? But when it's 5 or 6 kids and it's constant every day, it was the start of the age of AOL Messenger and MSN and stuff like that. So I used to log on to go talk to my friends. Fair enough, I could log off, but when I went on there, it was happening again. And, it's not like these kids have now with mobile phones, kind of constant, but it was enough. And then I went to school, and then I played in the same sports teams as them. So it was just huge impact. So, and then it was made worse because I was physically abused. I was beaten. So I was kind of very self-conscious of that. I was very self-conscious of what bruises I had on me at that time. That was back when I was in year 7 and year 8.
Tell me a little bit more about that physical abuse. Where did that come from? Where was that born from?
I think that was all kind of like frustration from the person who did it. It was frustration from them because they were struggling. They couldn't deal with their own emotions. They couldn't deal with what they were going through at that time. So they saw me as an easy target. Like I said, a young skinny kid, and pick up a shoe with a decent heel on it and beat the kid until he cries and he's lying on the floor in a lot of pain. The amount of times I used to look in the mirror, I used to wake up and go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and my back was black and blue all at the top of the back. I could see heel marks all over it. So that when I could see that, I used to put a t-shirt on underneath my shirt. Let's say I used to go and do PE. I used to kind of get changed in the corner. Never used to have a shower after PE. So obviously,
really conscious.
Really, really conscious. So I used to kind of like a bit of a smelly kid, and that just added to the bullying, the picking on me, and so when I did eventually try to tell someone, they didn't really kind of believe me, and I just thought, all right, I'll just carry on, just knuckle under and get on with it.
How old were you when, like 12, 13?
Yeah, I was about 12 to 13, so just at the start of puberty,
just such an impactful time of life.
Yeah, it really was. And like I said, I had low confidence anyway because I was behind in school. And then when that happened, when I hit puberty, my confidence levels just plummeted. I never really had any close friends in school. I don't keep in touch with anyone from secondary school, no one. I hated it, couldn't stand it.
I can really relate to that with having a skin condition. The fear of exposing yourself, the showering thing really stuck with me because I was so afraid to be uncovered because of vitiligo. It put me into the corner because you're sort of trying to hide away, aren't you? And it sort of suppresses your growth at that time. And you're talking about being behind as well. Although all of these things seem they're subtleties, but you add that together, that's such a impact on a day-to-day basis psychologically. It's putting rings of trauma inside you from a very impressionable age, like what you're saying, like 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
When you look at that situation, when you've reached out and sort of said, this is a problem, who did you go to?
I first of all kind of went to my parents, But I'm not trying to knock my parents at all. They're amazing people. I love my parents. Like, we are a very close-knit family, very large, close-knit family. Tried talking to them, and they were. My dad was like, "You'll be right. Just get on with it. Get on with the day-to-day stuff. Kind of brush it off. Almost a sense of man up,
character building.
Yeah, get on with it. But it was difficult trying to talk to them. Second I heard that, I was like, all right, I'll just crack on with it. So I didn't really talk to anyone else about it. I kind of kept it all to myself, kept it all bottled up. Whenever I felt down about it, I just buried it deeper and deeper and deeper. And with everything else piling on top of it, it was just more and more stuff. And I'm just trying to keep a lid on it. And that's when I realised if I go play rugby, I can go smash the crap out of someone, feel a little bit better, and I can just found a bit of a coping mechanism for it. So yeah, that was tough.
If someone's reaching out to you, you've got to listen to them. But it's about breaking that cycle, isn't it? And it's about getting rid of those sentences and giving someone else a different sentence. Like, okay, man, tell me about that. Let's see what we can do to help you. It would be so useful, wouldn't it? It would. A simple gesture of being listened to could have helped total change, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could have helped me out, and it could have put me down a different path, and it could have made me feel like I was accepted and someone was helping me, and I was problem shared was a problem halved. I truly believe that. So if someone's trying to tell you something, or someone looks a little bit down, or someone's struggling one day, ask them how they are. And if they turn around to you and they go, "No, I'm fine," ask them again. But when they start talking, don't instantly start talking about your perspective or what you've gone through. Ask them a question about what they just said and get them to feed you. And always ask them a question about it, because, you know, the worst, what I found in my experience is when someone turns around to you and starts giving you their experiences. It's like, mate, you've just asked me a question. I've just opened up and now you're giving me stuff about you. I don't want to talk about you. I want to talk about me.
Yeah,
I need to get this off my chest, you know. I need to get this out.
Conversation is that release of the stress container, and then you can be signposted all sorts of places, but just simply by being thoroughly listened to, you know, you can ask any question or simply tell me a bit more.
It's just, you just got to ask the open-ended question, because that person's going to have to give something more to it. And the second they give a little bit more, you ask them a question about what they've just said, or you ask them another open-ended question, and just gets them talking, and it just gets them that first stage of opening up.
When was the first time you were able to open up?
Properly, probably about 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from the age of 12, 13.
Yeah. I say to my wife now, there's like a library inside of me, and everything which has happened or everything which kind of impacted me was a book. And there was no order to this library. It was literally just open up the door, chuck another book in, shut the door, forget about it. And the library's filling up and it's completely unorganised. My thoughts are everywhere. Everything's like out of order. And now it's just kind of like everything's more organised. When I feel something's impacting me, when I feel something is out of place or I'm having a bit of a problem, I think about that library. I get that emotion. I'm like, you know what? Think about it, process it, put it away on a shelf, file it away, you're done with it. I can walk back outside the library. It's all more organised. That's the way I visualise things when I'm struggling. That's how I need to do it.
Just being awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you've had that structure given to you, supplied through therapy, all of that support that you've had. Obviously, naturally, when we go back to the start of this little trail, you talked about rugby.
Yeah.
So at that point, you didn't have this library. You hadn't spoken up. You'd been shut down. Your stress container was sealed. The only thing that could go in with a one-way valve was more stress and more anger.
Yeah.
Is that how it manifested in you, through anger?
Yeah, so everything came out in anger. Like when my mates were all kind of like bit of banter going back and forth, I used to join in a little bit, and then I used to kind of like go something, used to be trying to be physical because I couldn't process, couldn't handle it. And yeah, I was just always rely on that anger, and used to become physically trying to dominate them, trying to push them out of the way. And yeah, I just could not handle it. It was just anger.
If it doesn't heal, it repeats.
Yep.
I mean, that is one of my favourite sentences, and I could drop that bomb all the time because it's a passed down reaction, isn't it? You've not been given a different skill. Violence has been put on you, physical abuse, you get an uncomfortable situation, you're now repeating that same action.
Yeah.
It's, did you even recognise that at the time afterwards? Was there like a level of stress or guilt or shame about that, or was it just like going out of control?
There was no guilt, there was no shame, there was no nothing, there was no remorse. When I used to go out, like I said, I used rugby as a massive outlet. When I used to go into rugby and I used to like tackle someone fairly hard and give a little bit more than I should have, or I hit someone a little bit late, or I used to try and do something to hurt someone else, there was never any guilt. I just did it and I felt better after. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to probably do that again. And you always push it a little bit too far and the guy fights back. And on a rugby pitch, most things go. But yeah, there was never any guilt. So yeah, but I loved it. It was a great stress release for me.
Great outlet. So you've got that element of a release now through rugby. Obviously everyone's sort of noticing, and it is a real team bond, isn't it? Was there anyone within that squad, the coaches or anyone, that took you aside and sort of asked those questions? How are you, man? Like,
I suppose no would be the answer. You know, I kept myself to myself. I was very adept at hiding stuff. Now, yeah, I will admit it. I was very good at lying, being manipulative. So I was very good at keeping things to myself and keeping people at arm's reach. You know, I used to let people get close to me. I used to be like really good friends with them, and then I used to find a way of getting rid of them. When they got too close, that was it. Find a way of sabotaging it and getting them gone. Obviously, my mates used to chuck an arm around when we've all had too much drink and go, "You all right, mate? How you doing?" But I was very good at hiding stuff. I used to go, "Yeah, I'm great. I'm awesome. Let's get another beer in." So I was very...
Take a detour from this
Yeah.
potential conversation that
Most
don't
definitely.
know how to have.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, that you needed, that you wanted, but you didn't know how to have it. Until you start talking, and still you have that talk in therapy. It doesn't even have to be called therapy, but it is very therapizing. We're all a bit lost, aren't we? We're a communal species. We need to have one another. If you were to trace back to, like, your nickname, for instance, KitKat,
Yeah.
why is that?
Two of the army boys, when I say army boys, Geordie and Muggers, two of the funniest guys and proper laugh. I just got my first, playing in the first team quite continuously. And then almost like every third or fourth week, I used to pick up an injury. I used to kind of like twist my ankle, pull my groin, hurt my shoulder a little bit, break a finger. So I was literally running out on the training pitch one day and Geordie turned around and went, "KitKat, KitKat, KitKat." And I was like, "Who are you calling KitKat?" I said, "You, mate, have a break, have a KitKat." And it just stuck. And then Geordie jumped on it. And then Geordie and Muggers, the whole session were calling me KitKat. I mean, fair enough, it got me annoyed to begin with. I'm like, I don't want, my name's Adam, or everyone calls me Miles. Why are they calling me KitKat? Why are they calling me KitKat? I turn back round and everyone's laughing. I'm like, there's no way I can fight this. It's just going to stick. And it has. It's stuck from like the early days of playing rugby. And it's just KitKat. And if someone knows me, they'll go, "You all right, KitKat?" "Oh, that's me." "Yeah, you all right, mate?" If someone calls me Adam, I almost completely ignore it.
Yeah.
No one ever calls me Adam.
Yeah.
I mean, loads.
It is. It does represent you. It almost is like a premonition of what was going to, eventually end rugby for you, wasn't it? So tell me about the thing that completely ruined rugby for you.
Yeah, well, I was going to retire that season anyway. That was going to be my last season playing. 13 years playing first team was enough. But yeah, I didn't really think anything of it. Just playing one day, took a bad tackles, and the guy I managed to offload the ball, but the guy carried on. Lifted my legs, the ref didn't see it, just put me on top of my head. I felt like a huge crunch in my neck and had a bit of shooting pain down my back, and I was like, "Oh, that doesn't feel great. I'm just going to brush it off, play the rest of the game." Went training on Tuesday and Thursday, still had a bit of pins and needles in my hands. I was like, "Oh, I must have just trapped a nerve." Came around to the game on Saturday. As I made a tackle, I rolled over and I rolled on top of my head, and all my weight went through the top of my head again. So I felt the crunch. I thought, "Oh, that's properly crunchy now. That doesn't feel great." Again, went training Tuesday and Thursday. Avoided as much contact as I could because I was starting to have quite serious back pain. And then came around to that third week. Well, came around to playing again on the Saturday. And yeah, just kind of again made a tackle. As I sat up, someone landed on top of my head. So my whole body just crunched. I had entire weight of someone else. The guy must have been at least 15, 16 stone going through my neck. And that was it. I was like, oh my God, the pain, like serious amounts of pain. I stood up and I kind of looked over on the sideline and I saw we had two forwards and one back. And I looked on and I went, "I can't go off yet. This is only start of the game. I can't go off. I've got to carry on. So I played the rest of the match.
Oh.
And I kind of was having huge amounts of pain all down my back, all down my arms. Went into the gym, thought I'd just do some shoulders today, kind of just do some light shoulders. Lifted up the weights of my shoulders, my neck just spasmed out, my back went mad, my shoulders locked out, and I was like, right, something's quite serious here. But, after a few days, it eased off and I was getting pins and needles down in my arms. I was like, oh, it's getting better. It must be a trapped nerve. I had about 2 weeks off playing. I went back on a Tuesday and we're just doing a bit of a warm-up game. And someone threw the ball up pretty high in the air. And I stood there and I was going to catch it. And one of the other guys came steaming in behind me. Didn't see me. Your eyes have always got to be on the ball. And he just clattered into me. Like properly clattered into me. My whole body folded around his and I hit the deck. That was it. Couldn't feel my arms, couldn't feel my legs. And I was on the floor and I knew something was up. Knew something was wrong. Coaches came over and they came over to see me and they were like, you're right. What's wrong? And I was like, it's my neck. I can't feel my arms, can't feel my legs, or my feet moving. So I couldn't sit up. So I lifted my hands and then I kind of like moved them. I was like, all right, cool, my hands are moving. Okay, great, I'm getting some feeling back. So they managed to stand me up, walked into the clubhouse, took the tape off my arm, off my hands, took my top off, went, right, I'm just going to go for a shower. And I had, this was excruciating, felt like my arm was over like a naked flame. Felt like a real burning sensation in my left arm. So I went and had a shower. Walked back into the clubhouse, grabbed a beer, sat there, talking about the game on Saturday. Coaches went, hopefully KitKat's available. I went, yeah, I should be available. Hopped in my car and drove home.
Wow.
Spent the whole night in pure agony. And every hour I was waking up I thought it was something like a crick in my neck. So I kept trying to crack my neck and I kept trying to move my body around. I went for a shower in the morning, came out of the shower, always brought the missus a cup of tea first in the morning. I was always up first. And she looked at me and she was like, why are you sweating? And I sweated through my shirt. And I was like, something's not right here. I'm not happy. So she convinced me to call 111. Ambulance came out. They came to see me. I opened up the door, all happy, smiley. They're like, it's just a trapped nerve. Go see your GP. Saw the GP, explained everything to him. And he just sat back in his chair and he went, can you get to A&E without us calling an ambulance? Because you've done something quite serious here. I went, yeah, get my missus to take me. So she drove me to A&E, walked into A&E, 10 minutes in Addenbrooke's, that was it, strapped to the spinal board. And they were like, you've really screwed yourself up here. And yeah, about 2 hours later, got the results of the CT scans back.
Did the fear start hitting in at the point where the GP said, yeah, are you going to be okay? Did anything like register with you?
No, because I thought I've got to play on Saturday.
You're still thinking that?
I was still thinking I've got to play on Saturday.
So obsessed.
There's a game on Saturday. I would say I was more obsessed about not letting the team down.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let the boys down. I felt I had to turn up week in, week out for them. They were my mates. Few of them are my closest friends.
Yeah.
And I had to put a shift in for them. And I couldn't let the squad down. So no, the fear didn't set in straight away.
And also you've got that, you have got a nickname of KitKat. So is that playing in the back of your mind as well? You're like, yeah, it's just a little injury. I seem to get them a bit worse than everyone else. It'll be all right.
Yeah,
you know.
Definitely. And all my injuries were like, I think one of my longest injuries was like 11 weeks. And the others have been like 2-3 weeks. I was thinking to myself, 2 weeks off, I'll be fine. Get back on that pitch.
So you're having the beer. You've then gone into hospital. To be immediately taped down on a spinal board, at that point, did you start panicking?
No. There's actually
I've been crying.
There's a picture of I think it was my wife. She took a picture of me, and I'm lying there on spinal board, and I'm just smiling. And I was lying there and just smiling, like my head strapped in. I was trying to hold my arm in because I had no strength in my left arm. So painful. I was just gently touching it, but I'm smiling, still smiling on the spinal board.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing until they said I've got to stay in overnight. And the second the doctor came in and said I've got to stay overnight, and he went, I'll be back in a second. Just got to try and find a monitor so I can show you what's happened. That's when it started kicking in. That's when the fear of, oh my God, what have I done? What's actually happened? And he walked in and he was like, right, we need to roll you because we've got to check the rest of your back because the bruises all went down the whole of my back. And that's when it started kicking in a little bit. That's when the fear, I was like, what's happened here?
So that sort of internal brick wall of, what you've got from being a kid. That defence that you've got, it's your natural go-to, all of a sudden, start to crumble a bit. Yeah,
it started to crumble a bit, but, I pushed myself back onto what I'm used to doing, and that's blocking it out and put a smile on, be happy and smiley for the nurses, the doctors, put a brave face on. I think it was after the first night, the surgeon came in and said, right, we might need to operate, so we need to kind of, like, nicest doctor in the world, top doctor, sat on the end of the bed and asked me how I felt. How are you feeling? How are you? And I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm all right. Because I was burying it, didn't want to show him. He actually slimmed himself a little bit further up the bed and he sat there and was like, listen, I'm going to have to tell you that you're going to have to retire from rugby. You're going to have to stop playing. That's it. And it didn't sink him. And I was just like, oh, yeah, okay, right, yeah, no worries, whatever.
What was the injury?
My C3 and C4, the disc slipped out and it hadn't gone sideways, it had gone straight into my spinal cord.
Wow.
And my C4 vertebrae I fractured, partial fracture in there. So spinal cord is meant to be nice and straight all the way down.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be like, meant to be white.
Yeah.
Where my disc has come out, it's a huge kink in my spinal cord now. The spinal cord goes around my disc and it's like a dark grey just underneath the disc. So that means a bit of deadness in there.
Yeah.
So I've actually permanently damaged my spinal cord.
Yeah, obviously, naturally, at least it's just damaged and not completely ruptured and spewing out, because the spinal cord is so important for everything, because that's what everything travels through, all your nutrients for your recovery, for, it's the highway of your body. Because you're a smart dude as well. Let's not beat around the bush. So when you're then hearing the actual technicalities, you're seeing this, you've got the doctor, sort of nice bedside manner.
Yeah.
How long was it you were in hospital, and did you, the surgery and everything like that, what happened?
I was in hospital for a couple of nights. They just wanted to monitor me, make sure that the disc wasn't going to move anymore. Lucky for me, years of playing rugby, years of weightlifting as well. I've got a pretty strong neck and everything's settled down really well.
So the inflammation and everything like that, your body recovered pretty good.
Yeah, kind of it set it. So the disc didn't move anymore. The vertebrae was kind of looking after itself. So they gave me a neck brace, kept me in for a couple of nights, gave me a load of painkillers, and we're like, we're not going to operate. We don't want to operate because that's always the last port of call.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that as the years go by, the disc will deteriorate. I will need an operation at some point to remove the disc, probably to fuse up the vertebrae. Well, no, but the other discs start deteriorating more. So they start shifting around. And that's the last thing I want, is to have more pain.
Yeah.
So because I'm able to keep moving now, it's pretty good.
Hey there, it's Howie. Just interrupting really briefly, I've got a quick favour to ask. We don't run ads on the Pod Barber, but if you're finding this podcast helpful, or if you know someone who might benefit from listening to it, please take just 10 seconds to share this episode by tapping on those 3 little dots on your podcast player. From there, you can text or email a link to the show and spread the word of what we're trying to do here. That'd be great. Mick and I really appreciate your help. Okay, back to the show.
You've got a physical injury there. You were going to retire from rugby anyway.
Yeah.
You've now just had that fast forwarded. What was the next little bit of the journey as you were physically recovering? Did the mental side of it start to appear?
Yes. Pretty much the day I left hospital, as we kind of left hospital, just getting onto the M11, that was it. Realisation hit. Everything hit. I couldn't keep anything bottled up, and I just broke down in tears, floods of tears. And that's never happened to me before. Never. That would have been the first inkling that something wasn't right. And it wasn't just tears of pain, the fact I couldn't play anymore. It was tears of, I can't get rid of this anger. I can't get rid of this stress. I've got no outlet for any of this.
Would you say that you'd got into that sort of sphere of identifying as a tough guy rugby player? Was that your identity? Or was there more to you at that point?
I would never identify myself as a tough guy of rugby. I just did what I had to do on the pitch. But I suppose I always had a bit of a barrier. Like I said, didn't let people in. Always try to kind of say, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'll keep playing. Yeah.
You weren't ready to transition, no. In that manner. No preparedness at all.
No.
All of a sudden, whack.
Yeah, done. Finished. You're never going to play again. You had no time to finish the season. You still feel like you had stuff left in the locker to get rid of. I was never ready for it. Painful.
With the anger now turning, would you say the next emotion became fear?
Yeah, 100%. 100% fear. Fear for what I was going to do next. Fear of how I was going to control myself. How was I going to control this anger? All this stuff left inside of me. This complete shit show of a library which I had inside of me, which was so much stuff bottled up, so much stuff stored in. There was no way of organising it. I didn't know how to sort it. Huge spiral from there.
Where did that spiral to?
That spiraled to... They give you loads of painkillers when you're coming out of that. And I realised that I liked the painkillers they were giving me quite a lot. And I was probably taking a little bit more than I should have. And I realised it wasn't good for me. So I took them back to the doctors. I went, listen, you've got to give me something else. This is too much. These Skittles are too yummy. So yeah, I kind of handed them all back in. And over time, created more friction between me and my wife. And it capitulated to a point where she said, you've got to get something to help you. You've got to get this sorted. Enough's enough. Because she could see that I was just spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep control. So much stuff inside of me, I couldn't get it out. Didn't know how to release it, didn't know how to process it.
So you're sitting there pent up and your mind's racing. I dare say you're probably wanting to try and share this with this person that's your wife, but there wasn't a path already built for that journey to happen. There was no... You're at a stage of evolving into the person that we meet today, but you weren't at the destination you are now. You're at the start of that real transitional period. Your wife had never met that part of you.
No, she hadn't.
So was she afraid of you? Was she like...
Sarah's the strongest person I'll ever meet. She's awesome. without her, I would be in a whole world of shit. At no point did she look scared. She was always talking to me, always wanting to help me out. And that's the woman I love.
Was it her support getting you towards therapy, or was that your choice? Did you think, look, I need to sort something out now?
A lot of getting therapies and getting help for problems is your choice. You've got to want to do it.
Yeah, man.
You have to want to do it. But yeah, support from her. She was the one who said, sort your life out.
She held your hand over the line.
Well, she pushed me out the door pretty much. She was like, get on with it. She'd been saying it for years before, or a couple of years before. You've got to talk to someone about this. You've got to talk to someone. She knew there was always something not right.
But naturally, you've got to make that decision yourself, and you've got to have ownership over it, haven't you? And tell me about your journey with counselling, with therapy. What happened?
For me, it was one of the best things I've done. The guy I went to go see, he was awesome. He just talked to me. And he talked to me like a normal human being. There was no...
judgment?
No judgment whatsoever. And the first few sessions, he just wanted to talk to me, find out who I was, what I went through, what happened. And it wasn't until about the 10th session when I was talking to him and everything just spilled out. I can't even remember what question he asked me. You know, the door opened, all the books in the library came falling out. And that session, I was just in tears. And he asked me another question and I couldn't string two words together. And he talked to me and he let me get it out in my own time. And he was just there, just to guide me through my thought process. Every single time I started a session with him, it never ended on that subject. It evolved to something completely different. And it was the same with that session. He just talked to me, and 1 second we're talking about how my week at work's doing. Next second I've just opened up about everything. And I've got the box of tissues in front of me. And he's just looking at me going, you're doing really well. This is great. This is awesome. So every session kind of went in there, carried on talking to him, kept opening up about all sorts of stuff. And when I look back now from the first session to the last session, you know, when I first walked in there, I was a broken man, emotionally, mentally broken man. And then to the last session, everything about that session was positive. Everything I said was something positive. Everything I angled towards was something good. And he looked at me and went, would you like to come again? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, I think you're actually in a fantastic place. And he literally listed all the things I said positive, all the positive stuff I said. And he was like, in my professional opinion, I think you can quite happily manage everything going forwards. He said, personally, I'd love to see you again in here and talking to me, but professionally, I think you're good to manage everything going forwards. Obviously, my door's always open. If you want to come and talk to me again, come in and talk.
He's facilitated the professional chat that you needed.
Yeah.
A lot of people, certainly in England and the UK in general, the idea of therapy has its own stigma. Oh, therapy? You know, why do you need that? Well, I think everyone needs to have a chat, don't they?
Everyone needs to chat. Everyone needs to talk to somebody at some point. This whole modern world is going to break you at some point. So physically we might be quite adapt to this world, but mentally we're not. The modern world's evolved so fast and so quickly that our minds just cannot keep up. And at some stage, at some point, you're going to struggle and you're going to have to be able to talk to someone. You don't have to always go to get therapy. Not everyone needs it. You just might need to talk to that best friend you have. Your wife, your husband, you know, your brother, your sister, your best mate. It doesn't matter. Your bartender, it doesn't matter. You just got to open up and you just got to make sure that when you say something, that person's going to sit there, listen and go, all right, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We're back to that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's the practicality of listening. It's if you're not sure about it, just shut up.
Yeah.
Ask a very simple question. I'll spit mine out in all sorts of weird ways.
Yeah.
But you have to, and then give space, safe space, no judgment.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, ask a few more.
Yeah.
And if you see someone with a bit of a serious mental injury, we'll call it, don't be afraid to ask the big questions like, are you feeling suicidal? Are you feeling like hurting yourself? Dig a bit deeper if you have to, but largely, if we have a sense of sort of support and community, mostly it's not to the extremes. It's having the confidence in yourself to ask the question and sit back and let them go.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. You've got to let that person talk, because they'll always start off at trying to hold themselves back, and then second you start asking them a question, they have to open up. They can't keep pushing you away.
What was the lowest point that you would say you ever dropped to? I know I've just mentioned the word suicidal and stuff like that, and it's just, I like to sort of be able to talk about all sorts of things because it, again, reduces the stigma. I'm not saying that was the lowest point, but what was it for you, the lowest point?
It's kind of hard to say because it was all just one big low point. It was, like I said, I had all those painkillers in the house, and to have them there, I'm not going to lie, it was tempting. When you're at home, you can't go to work, you just sat there and you got time in your hands, you're doing nothing, you're in constant pain. You sat there to think of yourself, well, is this it? This is all my life's going to be? Am I not going to get any better? I don't want this. I don't want to be sat here right now. I don't want to be having to deal with this for the rest of my life. I can't deal with this rest of my life. And the first thing you think of is how to sabotage your life. But, and as I said, Sarah's the best thing I have ever found. If it wasn't for her, things could have gone a completely different route. So, yeah.
Just great to have that support. Not everyone's got a fantastic wife or husband or partner, but we can all step up and look in on other people, can't we? And make sure that we can be that person for someone. You said earlier about you've got to expect trauma.
Yeah.
Shit's going to hit the fan. What am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? What can I do to better practice the strength of my mind?
Yeah.
I can physically train, but I must put these two things together. I must train these and that's going to make me a superior version of myself and give me the confidence to get through these things, or to ask the question, or to tell someone. The two things are so entwined. Train the body and the mind together.
Yeah,
it's a strong force, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. Yeah, it's massive, strong. Yeah, huge, strong force.
How do you now approach your attitude towards training? Because you look in great shape.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Well, you do. You look.
Iron me up all the time. From the days of me just throwing my body around the gym, I used to do lots of weightlifting. I never used to do anything like CrossFit. But now when I approach it, I take quite a methodical approach to everything. Now, when I know where my strengths are, I probably push myself a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. But when I know where my strengths aren't, I ease off the gas, take it down a weight, take it down a notch.
A thoughtful practitioner for the physicality. Because they're so entwined.
Yeah.
The fact is, if you can't do something because you've overdone something, there comes the problem for the mind.
Yeah.
You start then having to deal with that.
Yeah.
Going, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It sends you into a spiral, which could end up in all sorts of things.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure that's so relatable to a lot of people as well. They get to the point where you're like, I wish I could just do that. I should have just listened to my body a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, there's one thing that's doing all the talking. It's your head, isn't it? And it can be telling you something positive or something negative.
Yeah, like a few months ago, we had a bit of a rugby touch tournament at the rugby club. And I went out there playing on the team with the old boys, the guys who I used to play with. And I thought to myself, it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome, throw the ball around. And about that week leading up to it, I kind of pulled my groin slightly, but I was like, no, I'm so mindset on I'm going to be playing. Exactly. I was like, my mindset was so I'm going to play. And I started playing, and at one point I rolled my left ankle, aggravating an injury. I was like, oh God, I'll keep playing. I want to keep playing with these boys. And I walked back into the gym. I hobbled in. It's like my ankle's really sore. I've hurt my groin. And I'm stood there, and we're like, right, yeah, we're going to do a snatch complex. And I was like, my ankle and groin can't handle this. Oh, what have I done? I've got back into that old mindset of I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw the ball around with my mates. I'm going to play a game of rugby. Well, not full contact, just touch. But I didn't listen. But you've got to learn from it. And I've learned from that. I've picked up a little niggle here and there whilst training in the gym, and I've gone round and cancelled my next session.
Yeah, sensible.
So I'm like, you know what? Doesn't matter. Come back the next day.
It's a much better space to get into. So CrossFit, I know from some of the listeners, not just in this area, but since listening to so many different people that go into a format of exercise like CrossFit, it's the all-over training without having to necessarily do your own programming. It's like an all-over body training. It does train your mind as well. We're all malleable, fluid people. We all make mistakes. We've still got an ego, and you've got to try and leave it at the door. But what does CrossFit mean to you? How important is that in your day-to-day cycle now?
CrossFit's huge to me. As I explained to everyone, it's rugby without the rugby without the full contact. I'm able to do a team sport, but I actually do it individually. But yeah, for some reason, it's just that whole mindset, whole mindset of the gym, whole mindset of the people around me. No matter if they're lifting heavy or not, they're in the same mindset as you. You're in the same place as them because they're in there with you. And I'm one of those ridiculous people who like going 4 or 5 times a week, but I could quite happily go once a week, twice a week, and still love it as just as much. It's hugely important to me now. Being able to be doing something physical helps so much, being able to process everything going on in my mind, because I probably think more and relax more in the gym than I do at home. I have a problem I need to solve in my head, or a problem I have at work or at home or with one of my mates. I can go in the gym, load up the weight, get on the assault bike, look at doing toes to the bar, or like doing runs or anything. I can bring it to the front of my mind. And I know what exercise I have to do. That's in the back of my mind. I just flow through it. But the problem in the front of my mind just seems to dissolve, and before you know it, you're walking out the gym, you've got a big old smile on your face, and you're like, oh yeah, I feel ready to tackle all of this. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take on the next challenge, because those problems I've had are no longer problems. I've now got the solutions. I'm now thinking positive about those problems. And I walk in, I set to work, I sit down. Next thing I know, I've got solutions to that problem, just because I'm able to relax, get those endorphins flying. And I'm like, you know what? I can think about this clearly.
CrossFit's it can be a very extreme thing, especially when you look in and from a distance, but it's available to everyone at everyone's level. But it might not be CrossFit. It could be any rowing, if you want to be on the water, just simply running, getting mindful, but walking a dog, cooking, baking, any activity that you really dive into, really give yourself to for an hour or two a week or every day, whatever, it does clear that brain clutter and sort of melts it to butter.
Yeah.
But to combine that, do you now access other things like from that therapy? Do you do sort of a mindful approach to stuff? Do you facilitate that? Is that something else that you've used to pick up breathing techniques? Anything? I'm always interested in all this stuff.
I've tried all sorts. I've tried the whole breathing techniques. I've tried meditation. I've tried sitting down and reading these books, which just make no sense after 3 pages, and you got to go back and start again. But there's one book which I have read time and time again. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it's all about this guy's mindset, and it's all about your mindset going into anything, any activity, could be anything. And at the end of every chapter, it gets you to write down your thoughts. So you sit there and you start writing down your thoughts about the last chapter. And now when I pick up that book, I just go to those thoughts pages and look at it and go, well, actually my thoughts developed from that. I'm going to change that and change that out. So yeah, writing down my thoughts and processing that way actually really helps.
Yeah, form of journaling.
Yeah.
All books are good. All information is amazing. One of the tools that I think has become valuable to me is gaining knowledge.
Yeah.
Like in general, just to, and that could come through somebody else giving you a tilt. We're talking about a book that you got from Tom Foxley. It could be learning a new exercise, an instrument, cooking technique. Any of those things get you engaged with something, and that is what gives you that clarity in your mind. Because basically when you're in a point of complete turmoil, whatever that is to you, all you're doing is thinking about the same thing.
Yeah.
If you now advise others or open up that conversation, how are you going to work with that? How are you going to roll with that?
Like my wife, Sarah, she asked me how I was feeling about coming on here today. And I was like, well, I'm nervous. She was like, how are you feeling about opening up about everything? And I was like, I'm now at a stage where I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, I'll always give advice where I can. And she was just like, what are you going to get from it? And I went, if out of all the people who listen to it, if one person can relate to it or actually take something away from it, then my job's done. I've done something to assist, I've helped someone. I haven't done anything, but I've helped them. My satisfaction is the fact they're happier. They're going to be happier. So I'm like, you know what? I'm happy to do it.
Basically, you can tilt someone else's day.
Yeah.
Everyone says that to me. If you just can help one person, then you're doing a great thing. And I can 100% say that we're helping so many more than that. And we can't do that without guys like you come in and throwing squash tomatoes at the stigmas of men don't talk up.
Yeah.
Because they do.
Yeah, you've got to. We've got to talk. Yeah.
Have to within the community and find that space. I like to always ask a question. I know that you're a fan of the show, so here we go. Sex, drugs and rock and roll, man. What's it to you? Pick one.
Pick one.
Or all of them. And because you're a fan of the show, you might be really
drugs.
Smart and go different. Yeah, drugs. Go on then. Let's talk about drugs.
I've never really done anything heavy, like drugs-wise. I've probably dabbled. But yeah, loved too much of my beer. That got silly at one stage. And yeah, kind of like I said, and those little medications which they give you over the counter, nice prescription. You don't feel like you're doing anything wrong, but they get in your system and you're feeling good.
I like the fact that you pull prescription drugs and alcohol and relate that, because they're all legit, aren't they?
Yeah.
We accept all of that stuff, and a lot of people's problems come from hitting the bottom of a bottle on a regular basis, and prescription drugs, prescription painkillers, over-the-counter stuff just getting bought, and it's a huge problem, actually. It's probably by far worse, I would imagine. I don't know the scientific stats than the illegal push of drugs on society, because these are in open sight.
You can fake pain. You can fake pain to get something. I mean, fair enough. A lot of the times I got prescription drugs was because I was in pain, like physical pain. So it was just to try and get me through. But after a while, it just, you're like, oh, should I really be taking this? And then you go into yourself, oh yeah, I can get home in half an hour and I can take some more codeine. Oh, happy days. That was the first thing which sometimes going through my head. I'm like, wow, that's a bad thought. That's a bad place to be in. But when you're doing that and you're like, yeah, all right, I'll have a beer as well. And you have a couple of beers on top of that. It's not good.
Actually, painkillers and painkiller addiction, you mentioned codeine, we're talking about opiates.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about highly addictive, legalized, over-the-counter stuff.
Yeah.
If anyone understands what that's like to be addicted to painkillers and that withdrawal symptom, we all have this horrible terminology of people that get addicted to heroin and smack and crack and all these kind of things, you know, and you call them junkies and stuff. Well, actually, you forget that terminology, but painkiller addiction is such a physical bond with a drug. And it's not that you go to a dealer on the street to go and get them. You get them from your GP. You don't actually get, like, it's so easy to get them. You can phone them up. Yeah, I'm running out. I need more.
Yeah, you can refer me. Yeah, not a problem, as long as I get hold of them.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I would share this because I said earlier, you know, you shouldn't listen to someone else's story and, you know, then start talking about yours. But I was actually addicted to painkillers. So I was on painkillers for at least sort of 9 months. And I was max dosing when I had my shoulder complications, which is what eventually I led to, you know, physically recovering. But it was the start of my mental health decline. Yeah. And I was taking, like, I think it was Solpadol or something like that in the end, but the 30x500s with the tramadols at night.
Yep.
And I remember trying to come back after my surgery, and it all went terribly wrong. Everything was much more extended. Everything was much worse than what I was being told. I sort of had a gut feeling that was the case. And it was my strong partner in the end that said, look, you know, you're trying to get back into work now. I think you need to slow up on those things. And I'd become like addicted to the process of taking them periodically, but fearing, I'm in so much pain at the moment, you know, it's going to get so much worse. And then it sort of becomes this mental thing. But actually the physical addiction to kick them was incredible, man.
Yeah.
I could honestly say I now know I've never been addicted to alcohol or any of the other drugs that I might have taken, but I definitely can put my hand up and say I know what physical addiction to painkillers is like. So be really wary, because no one reads the little bit of paperwork that comes in the box.
Never. The
doctors never really go through properly. I remember phoning them up and saying, I'm trying to sort this out. I'm really struggling here. What are you going to do? Oh, we'll give you a different synthesized thing. You can take that. And I'm like, what? That doesn't seem sensible. And it was just down to my determination in the end. And it was somewhere between 3 and 5 months of literally getting down to the crumbs to get off them. And I did have to go cold turkey in the end. And it was horrendous.
You feel horrific, don't you?
It was horrendous, man.
Yeah.
So sex, drugs and rock and roll. We talked about how so many of those things in the drug world, drugs sounds like a real negative connotation. It's an illegal thing largely to most people, but actually there's so many things on the open market. So just be wary, people. Is there any way that you would sort of let people be signposted to? I know you're not a massive social media fan, but
anything to do with sport, you know, Bear Waldham. Bear Waldham's been a bit of a cornerstone this past few years for me.
Basically support getting rid of that stigma that men don't talk up. I'm sure there'll be loads of them that will, you know, they'll come in and around, but it won't just be in this local area, because there's a listenership growing, dare I say it, globally, because it's accessible. So your story is accessible to people all over the world. So basically, wherever you are living, look into your local CrossFit box, look into your local sports teams, the sense of training with community.
Teams, it's all about teams. It's some people who don't seem to understand that the community spirit. If you can get into a team sport, or I always use CrossFit box, I'm massively into it, but you might be training by yourself, but you're a team, you're a community. The guys who show up at 7 a.m. every day, that's our little team, that's our little squad. And all those guys, you kind of, when one of them doesn't show up, you're looking around the room going, where is he today? Why is he not training? And when he rocks up next day, like, where were you yesterday, mate? Have a chat with them. But if you can get into a team, could be a walking team, could be just that sense of community, like you're not on your own, you're not by yourself, other people around you. It's a powerful thing.
Listen, dude, I think the way that you've been able to progress, getting better and better version of yourself, you've got fatherhood in front of you to look forward to. You've got a milestone of being one of the greatest guests on the Pod Barber podcast show. You're tackling things differently now. You've got hopes, you've got forward-thinking stuff. We're just so thankful that you're able to come in and talk to us so openly, to talk about childhood abuse, physical abuse and stuff like that. It's really upsetting. It's almost don't go there territory for so many people, but to be able to be open, to then find how that was refocused with therapy and support, you can get there. There is hope out there. And on that note, we're so grateful that you've come on here and you chose this place, this destination for part of that journey. So on that note, peace, love, power to your day, man.
Thank you, brother. Much appreciated.
The Pod Barber is a That Media and Design production with Mickey at the mic and Howie at the controls. If you've been affected by any of the topics in this show, you can find more helpful information on the episodes page at thepodbarber.com and search The Pod Barber on social and let's get connected.